So I just came from a die-in protest at the farm show. It was outdoors, 29 degrees. My hands are icy. The purpose of the protest is to draw attention to really the events that are happening around the country right now, and also just some of the cultural issues that are happening around the world today, and in the United States particularly, of how citizens are treated, and also how we interact with people of different cultures. There's a need, I think everybody agrees, for minority communities to have some kind of change where the children are educated and brought up in a way that that they can be productive members of society, but at the same time just feel free to live their lives how they see fit, as long as they're not hurting other people. This is a basic principle of our government in America, particularly the concept of liberty and freedom and justice for all. The real problem that I have, that I see that's going on today, is that we're polarized. We're polarized in a number of ways: Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, black, white, wealthy, poor, educated, non-educated, football teams, sports teams, polarization for fun. We've really become a society about polarization, black and white, and I mean that as a pun and not as a pun. We see things in black and white. Our solutions are in black and white. A common solution that you'll hear in my community, from my peers, the common solution you'll find that you'll hear for people of color in the cities is, well, take initiative, take responsibility, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and you'll be fine. You won't have anything to worry about. Well, technically, that's true. Technically, that is probably a very true statement. The problem is that that's a black and white solution to a very complex issue. I think of it like this. Think of somebody who's your neighbor. Let's say your neighbor doesn't cut his grass. His house is painted a horrible color. He lets his mail pile up. His kid is running around at 2 in the morning. He's skateboarding all over the place, these kind of things. Well, the solution is, hey, stop doing those things. Pick yourself up. As a neighbor of that person, I can say to them, hey, pick yourself up. Do things the right way and you won't have anything to worry about. Well, I think we know that that's not necessarily the solution. It's probably not going to happen. We can say that till we're blue in the face, but it's not going to happen. What will work? Well, what will work is a couple of things. First of all, we need to come alongside our neighbor. We need to talk to our neighbor. We need to get to know our neighbor. Okay, this is reality. We need to get to know our neighbor and talk to them. See what's going on. Maybe there's something going on that we're not aware of. Maybe they had a serious illness in the family, and they just can't get back on. They just can't get themselves together for whatever reason. They're taking care of a family member. We don't know what their situation is, but until we talk to them, we can talk to her, we're blue in the face and say, hey, cut your grass and take care of your kid. Probably not going to happen. We can go over and cut their grass for them. That's a reasonable solution, but it's not going to raise their kid. It's not going to get their kid to go to bed at a reasonable hour. It would be very difficult to help somebody in that situation, assuming they need help, by just telling them, hey, pick yourself up, do what I do, just do what I do, you'll be fine. The reality is much more complex than that. That's for one neighbor. Imagine you have a whole street of that, or a whole community, okay? I think the reality is in the cities, there are the vast majority of people are doing the right thing, or they know what the right thing to do is. And when I say the right thing, I mean staying off of drugs, staying out of trouble, that kind of thing. Being productive members of society. Vast majority of people know that. They know what you're saying. Problem is, they don't just have one neighbor that's in that situation. They have a whole culture of this. This has been going on for decades. We can point fingers who started it, whose fault it was, all day long. The reality is, there's a whole culture of this going on. So the first thing that we need to do, that everybody needs to do, is just acknowledge that it's not a black and white answer. The solution isn't pull yourself up by the bootstraps. A more reasonable solution is to listen to their problems, listen to what's going on in their communities, listen to their struggles, and try to figure out how you can love them better, how you can help them. Stand beside them in solidarity. Let them know that you're on their side. Check your own heart, make sure you are on their side and you're not just trying to turn them into you. That's the other thing. We need to we need to do everything within limits. Keep in mind, we don't all have to go to college and go to church and live in a certain kind of neighborhood. This is America, land of the free, where we have opportunity to live in a variety of ways. If I want to get off the grid, I should be able to get off the grid. Fact is, I can't get off the grid. There's no way. People have tried it. People have been thrown in jail for trying to get off the grid. The electrical grid, try to have a job without having a bank account, or a certain kind of insurance that you have to have, these kind of things. Liberty is important for everybody to have, and if we're not willing to fight for liberty for people that aren't like us, then we have no right to demand it for ourselves. If you just want liberty for yourself, you're not getting the full picture here. The United States of America is a republic. We are not a democracy. That is by design. The reason we're not a democracy is in a democracy, the majority rules. The majority rules. That means if you're a minority, you don't have the same power as those in the majority. That's why we are not a democracy. We are represented by representatives in a republic. But the idea is that majority rules, and nobody should want a democracy or a situation where it's majority rules. Majority decides how we are to live, what rules we are to live by. If you want to impose your beliefs on other people, if you think your ideas are better and you want to impose them on them, and I'm not talking about ideas or actions that hurt other people physically or financially. I'm not referring to that. I'm not saying you can be free to take your neighbor's property or to hurt them, because then you're taking away their freedom to live and to pursue happiness. I'm talking about things that don't have victims, victimless actions. We should all be behind a nation that that allows for civil liberties and for all, not just for ourselves. The problem is when we don't do that, when we just look out for our own interests. For example, I'm against abortion, and I actually view abortion as murder. The problem is I don't want the federal government deciding that abortion is murder. The reason is, if I let the federal government decide that, I'm also giving them the ability to decide that abortion is not murder. And that scares me. What I would much prefer is to change the hearts of people to help them understand that abortion isn't the way out of their problems. Now, it sounds contradictory because I'm against violence. Well, it's true. And murder is the worst kind of violence, so I should be against that. Well, I chose probably the most controversial topic on purpose. Abortion is very difficult problem, mostly because we're not in agreement if it's murder or not, and that's the reality we live in. And I wish that wasn't the case. I think when you walk up and shoot somebody in the head with a gun, everybody agrees that's murder. But unfortunately, we're not all in agreement on the abortion thing. And me wishing all day long isn't going to change that. So that's probably the toughest issue around, because of that, because of the fact that we just don't agree on whether it's murder or not. Bottom line, though, I do prefer that we are able to make decisions for ourselves, as long as we're not hurting other people, and that the government stays out of our business. And that includes things like in communities where the police are doing Terry stops. Terry stop is, if anybody has any basic understanding of the Constitution, they should understand that a Terry stop is completely unconstitutional. A Terry stop is essentially if the police want to, they can stop you on the street, ask for identification, ask you a few questions, and then you're on your way. Well, the Fourth Amendment clearly does not allow for that. The Fourth Amendment says that the government needs to have probable cause. I was talking about this with a guy the other day, and he said probable cause is you're wearing a hoodie. You look like you could have done something. You probably are a bad guy. No. Probable cause means that you probably committed a specific crime. The police officer has to identify the crime that he thinks that you committed. Okay? So Terry stops are completely unconstitutional. Now imagine living in a community, and this will remind you probably of Germany, stop and show me your papers. That's literally what we were doing here. And for some people, the consequences were they would be harassed, beaten, frisked, thrown in jail, when they hadn't even been suspected of committing a crime. They just were wearing a hoodie or had black skin. That's not the America that I know. That is not America. That is a different country. There's no freedom in that. There's no liberty in that. And for those that think, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about. Well, that's literally the problem with a Terry stop. If you're not doing something wrong, you still have something to worry about. You still can get beaten. You still will be frisked. Your basic rights, your basic right to walk down the street freely, will be violated in a Terry stop. Just as soon as it begins, your rights have been violated, your constitutional rights. So if we're not willing to stand up for constitutional rights for others, then basically we're saying the Constitution has no merit. I don't believe in the Constitution. In fact, I support going against the Constitution. Our silence shows that we support not accepting the Constitution. That we support what the police officers are doing there. That's not forward thinking, to say the least. Once you give the government powers, because that's what that is doing, giving government power, because the Constitution restricts that power. The point of the Constitution, and specifically the Bill of Rights, is to restrict the power of the government. So anything else is empowering the government. When you do that, you give the government the ability to have powers that it should not have. And it can use those powers in other areas. So, for example, and it uses legal precedent for that all the time. For example, maritime laws were used to circumvent the Fourth Amendment originally. Hey, you came over from another country. I don't know if you have a bomb on you, so we are going to frisk you. Well, that was used as legal precedent to do other things. When I was in the military, in uniform, I was riding on a civilian bus, and undercover police officers came and frisked it checked all of our bags. And how ironic. I was serving in the military to protect the Constitution, and here I am with no probable cause. Somebody's telling me if I want to travel from point A to point B, I have to have my bags checked. Well, that stemmed from maritime laws. I wasn't going over water, I was on land. Now we have border checks. We have border checks in America that extend 100 miles from the border. Tell me how that's the border. So they've used the maritime laws as a precedent for a number of other things. Now, you go to a football game, you get on an airplane, get on a bus, you get checked, and it's a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment. So we have given over our rights to that. And in the mantra of, well, let's be safe. Benjamin Franklin said that those who are willing to give up essential liberties for safety deserve neither. And I think he understood that once you give over your liberties for safety, you're giving over all your liberties. You're giving over all your liberties because in effect, you're saying the Constitution is not a document that I recognize. Since I don't recognize the Constitution, which, by the way, gives Congress its power. It enables us to have a president. It's the basis for our legal system. When you say, I don't recognize this document, then the government is going to, and our founding fathers knew this, that's why they gave us the Second Amendment, and the First Amendment. The founding fathers knew this, they recognized this, and they said, well, once you give into that, you will lose the Constitution. Period. You're gonna going to give over your rights, and you will have no rights at that point. And they suspected that would happen. The Founding Fathers knew this was just an experiment, and they recognized that that people are scared, and people want the easy way out, and they want government to protect them, and that they'll probably give over the rights because of that. And they were right. We have done that. We've done that with military. We've done that with the police. We have allowed government to expand its powers in the name of safety, because we want the easy way out. Freedom isn't easy. Liberty isn't easy. It's very difficult. It's a difficult way to live. There are no promises. With freedom, you don't get guaranteed health care at the expense of everybody. With freedom, you have the liberty to make a decision. I'm going to work hard and earn health care, or I'm not. And you also have the liberty and freedom to help others who are in need. There are laws, and people have been arrested in Florida for feeding the homeless. They have their reasons, safety reasons, but I think we can. Most of us can agree that if I want to be charitable to somebody, I should be able to do so. Gee, I wonder why the government doesn't want us to be charitable to people. Maybe they want their power to be expanded through welfare programs and healthcare programs. So we all need to be vigilant and aware, not just of our own concerns, but of other people's concerns. Why did I attend the die-in today? Why do I support them? I don't agree with everything they say. They don't agree with everything I say. I was probably the only conservative there. But they, just like my neighbor, because they are my neighbor, they need to know I'm for them, I support them. Some of it's for selfish reasons, because I want liberty, I want to live in a free country. Part of it's because I truly love them. I want to see them prosper. I want to see their success. And when I say they, I mean people living in the inner cities, people struggling. And I think we should all care about that. One of the things that I heard today from people passing by, from white people passing by, when we had a sign that said Black Lives Matter, many people said, White Lives Matter. You know, we got the finger from veterans. We had a lot of people say, White Lives Matter too. You're right, they do matter. But that doesn't mean we have to argue whether or not Black Lives Matter. They both matter. So until we get to the point where we can truly, honestly, in good conscience say all lives matter and we're all on the same page with that, we're in the current state that we're in, where black people and Hispanics and Asians and other minority groups are really asking for help. They're really asking for our help. And we're responding by saying, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. It's not productive. And if we keep doing that, then they're going to demand the government helps them more and more. I promise you that, because I've been in their meetings. They will demand that. If we aren't willing to stand beside them in solidarity and empathize with them and love them and show them that we care, they're going to go to the government. And guess what? They're going to get what they want. Our government's going to grow. Our freedoms will be limited. I don't want this to sound like a selfish motive here, but that's another thing to consider. We need to stand together, and that's the message I want to get out today.